Welcome to this video about preparing to go into prison. Specifically, this is about the nuts and bolts of going into prison. Another way of thinking about this is learning the norms, the rules, the do's and don'ts about teaching in prison. So I'd like to frame this way for you. You've had a lot of experiences across your life where things have changed. When you went to elementary school, you probably had some experiences that were different than when you went to middle school. You likely went to the same classroom when you were in elementary school. And when you went to middle school, you had to go to multiple classrooms. So you might have carried different bags, had to prepare lots of materials. Maybe you had lockers. You might have done something different for lunch, interacted with lots of teachers. So you came up with new communication styles. When you went from high school to college, there were probably different norms about how to spend your time, what you were responsible for buying. You've had new jobs, different behavior, different interactions with people, different communication styles. If you went to the airport before or after 9/11, or if you notice even now, I went to the airport this summer and they were testing these very large bins where you put everything in the bin. And they were like, you don't have to take your computer out. I was like, I don't want to take my computer out. No, you don't take anything out of your bag. You put it all in there. It goes through. I was like, oh, this is great. I like this new norm. Uh, and we've been under COVID-19 protocols that are constantly changing. So you have the skills to adapt to changing norms. And what I'm going to suggest to you in this video is that there are a set of norms in the prison that you are going to need to learn. This is just a few of the norms. There are many that you will be learning as you are teaching in the prison. But sometimes faculty can resist the norms. So there's some tension that they often feel about the norms. And I want to state to you that the reason I believe that faculty feel tension around the norms is that there is tension around these. The CDCR norms don't align with community college norms. In CDCR, their primary responsibility, and they'll tell you that, their primary goal, like the thing that they're going after, is safety and security. And community colleges, hopefully the thing that we're going after is education. Now we're in this environment where even though we have one institution that's going after safety and security and another that's going after education, we have another institution, the government, that has said, according to laws and state funding, the community college should go into this other institution and teach college courses. And the institution we're going into, the prison, gets to decide whether we go in there or not. So they control the institutional norms. And somehow we are trying to stay focused on quality education going in while we go into an institution that has different norms than ours. There's a lot going on. So there's going to be a lot of tension. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is to learn and adapt to these new norms as long as they don't significantly hinder education. We all make compromises when we teach in a prison, and we have to decide whether or not those compromises are significant enough to prevent us from being able to do what we really want to do, which is offer quality education to students. So the first norm that I want to talk to you about is that no one enters prison without clearance. You can't just walk off the street and walk into prison. So there's two different types of clearance that I'm going to discuss. The first one is called gate clearance. This is temporary clearance. This is provided this allows you to temporarily go into the prison, often for a day. Sometimes they can do extended times of gate clearance, and it requires you to be escorted around the prison by a prison employee. So the prison has to have information about you in order to get clearance. And I apologize. I can't believe that license is spelled wrong on this slide. I apologize for that. The other type of clearance is what gets us our green cards. I'm not really sure what that clearance is called. I'll just tell you that. So I called it green card clearance. Some people have a brown card, which provides a longer time frame of clearance, but most of you all will have a green card. It'll get your picture, it'll have a date on it, and it will allow you to get in and out of the prison for a year, and no escort will be required for you to walk around the prison. The way you get this is by completing paperwork and by completing a live scan. So you will get information from either myself or Molly or Mari or the prison to let you know what you need to do to complete the information for clearance. Some of you will need to get a gate clearance before you actually get the other form of clearance, depending on where we are in the process. But remember, you cannot get into prison without clearance. Norm number 2. Prison dress code. If you do not comply to the dress code, you can't get in. It's that simple. That's the norm. Wear what you're allowed to wear or don't get in. So why is this? Well, the reason is primarily about safety and security. In the Department of Corrections, when the correction officers are up high in their towers, they look down, and if there is any kind of a problem, they are going to look at groups of people. If they see the groups of people who are wearing blue, they know that those are people who are incarcerated. The groups of people wearing the kind of olive army green color, those are the people who work there. Anyone, or the correction officers, anyone else is going to be you all, the voluntary people. So you have to wear the stuff that when they look up high, they know you're not a correction officer and you're not someone who's incarcerated. It's pretty simple. We used to spend a lot of time telling faculty what not to wear, and we learned that it's easier to tell faculty what to wear. So the norm is dress casually with professional clothing that is not distracting to learning. Wear black, purple, pink, brown, or red. It's very easy to have a few outfits that you just wear all the time. You wash them and you can just recycle them. Wear closed-toes, comfortable shoes that allow you to move quickly through the facility if you would need to. So here is what you should not wear, in case for those of you that like to know what not to do. Here is what not to do. Do not wear blue. The people who are incarcerated wear blue. Don't wear orange, lime green, gray, or white t-shirts or the colors that the correction officers are wearing. Again, these are colors that either the correction officers or the people who are incarcerated are wearing. Denim is not allowed at Folsom Prison. Do not wear open-toed shoes. And then don't wear distracting clothing. Don't wear accessories or things that are excessively smelly. So, and it could be a good smell, but a good smell also will be distracting. So don't wear t-shirts or other shirts that have printed messages on them that can be distracting. Large jewelry, excessively tight clothing, or perfume or strong scented lotions. All of these will distract from learning. Just avoid them. It's a pretty minor adaptation that you can make to comply with prison dress code and norms, and it will increase learning as opposed to distract from it. This next norm I'd like to talk about is only take in what is permitted. Don't take stuff into prison that is not allowed. You might hear my voice change a little in these next slides because I feel pretty strongly about this stuff. I'm trying to make your life easier, believe me. So, according to the Department of Corrections, this is an issue of safety and security. Don't take in contraband, stuff that's not allowed to be there. Just don't take it in. So what kind of stuff is not allowed in prison? Okay, I'll let you know. First, technology. Don't take in a cell phone, personal computer, iPad, videos, CDs, etc. Even those related, even if that stuff is related to learning, you'll have information about how to take stuff in that is, if you can take technology in related to learning, it'll be specific to your class and you'll have information about it. If you do not have permission to take it in, do not take it in. Do not, because it would be an exception. We've gotten exceptions for certain classes or certain content, but don't take anything personal in. It can always be taken back or confiscated. Don't take glass containers, metal, don't take metal in. Don't take non-course related books or information. So nothing excessively personal in there. You don't need money. You don't need personal information. None of that. There's no reason for it to go in. Take minimal things that are related to instruction. So what should you bring in? These minimal things related to instruction. Copies, whatever you need to be able to teach for the day, an outline or whatever notes that you have, dry erase markers, pens and pencils. For those of you, most all of you will be issued a laptop from the prison ed program, and you'll have permission to carry that. You want to take food and stuff to drink that you need for that day, just for that day. You will also all need an alarm case and a whistle, and you'll have to obviously have your car keys. Keep your car keys on you. You do not want to lose them in the prison, but limit your personal items. Only take what you need for instruction. All right, so you've sorted through your belongings. You know what you need in order to teach class, in order to take care of yourself as you teach class. How will you prepare the materials? Take them in a bag that can be easily taken through security. I take a canvas bag of some type, or a grocery, something that you might take to the grocery store. Some of you might have another type of bag, or we have carts, like rolling carts that some of you have chosen to get from the prison ed program that we provide. Something that when you go through the security checkpoints can easily be opened up and they can look into. Remember, the issue is no contraband. So to align with this norm, you want it to be really clear that you can open things up and they can look down in there and you're not hiding anything. You're not hiding anything that you shouldn't have. So the other thing is put stuff in clear Ziploc bags. It's going to help you see clearly in a bag that has only one pocket, and it will allow them to see clearly what you have in your bag. The next norm that I'd like to talk about is only provide class materials to students, and whatever you provide to students, you provide to all students. So don't give anything to students that is not related to class. Again, that's a contraband problem. Don't give them anything unrelated to class. You're already taking stuff into the prison that doesn't typically go into the prison. Books, information, papers, graded work, all of that is not normal for a prison. So we're already kind of creating some tension in the system. What you want to do is make sure that it's only related to your course. And when you do provide something to students, provide it to all of the students. You don't give one student an article. You give it to everyone. Because if not, it can be favoritism or what we would call overfamiliarity. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. Of course, when you're grading papers, you're going to provide individual feedback to students. So in the case of that, of course, that's normal. That's part of our teaching process, that we provide individual feedback. That's perfectly allowed. So why is this such a big deal? Well, when you provide material to students or information, things to students that's not related to the class, again, we've got contraband stuff, and it's a safety and security issue. It's an issue for you because you may be giving them things that you're not supposed to be giving them. Sometimes we hear that faculty want to give students pencils or pens. They want to take in food or stuff like that. All of that is contraband unless you've been given permission to give it to students. There are certain types of pens, certain types of pencils, things that have to be cleared at each prison. Food, no, food is all controlled by the prison. You cannot give food to students. Only what has been cleared can be given to students. Now, if a student gets something that they're not supposed to get, they can get in trouble. They can be put in administrative segregation. So do not do that. Also creates a problem for the prison because the prison then has stuff in it it's not supposed to have. That's, again, contraband. So I want to talk a little bit about this don't give things to one student if you don't give it to all. In the prison, there's this idea of overfamiliar. Well, it exists in multiple places, but it's a big deal in the prisons, this idea of overfamiliarity or favoritism, or the perception of overfamiliarity. So the idea is that you stay in your professional lane. Now, what it means to be professional with students is different than what it means to be a professional if you work in a department of corrections in a prison. So we're already kind of redefining what professionalism means by being teachers and professors in a prison. But what it definitely does not mean is giving individual things to individual students. And so, to avoid the perception of overfamiliarity, that you are favoring one student, that you're getting too close, that your professional relationship is getting muddied and personal, to avoid that, do not give things to individual students. So, how did I've given you all this, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Well, what happens? What happens in class? A student raises their hands and say, oh, we're talking about this really interesting thing. Can you tell me more about? Can I have an article about? Or, hey, I really need a pencil. What should I do? If you're not sure what to do, just say, hey, I'm not sure if I can do that or not. I'll check and get back with you. Don't say yes. Your first thing should be, I'll check. So, check before you say yes is how you avoid this problem. So, if you all can remember, check before you say yes. So, the next norm I'd like to talk about is that what goes into prison on that day that you take things in comes out of prison. And don't take anything out or in that's not related to class. So the reason for this again is you've heard this on like 3 slides in a row, I believe. No contraband. The other thing is you're not a courier service. So you can get in a lot of trouble taking things out, being a courier service for a student. Don't take things out for students and don't put things into the student, into prison. Don't do it even on accident. So you want to make sure that you create a system for checking that you have all of your belongings. Whatever you have permission to take in, whatever you take in, make sure that you take it out. So after you get done teaching, make sure that you've checked everything, that you collect, that you make sure you have a system for collecting student papers and for packing up those student papers in your bag. Double check that before you leave the educational building at the prison that you're at. And then I want to emphasize this again. Perfection is not required. One of our key things in our program is authenticity. So, what I can't do anything about is secrets. What I can do about something about is if an error happens. So, if an error happens, if something happens, just let us know. Let myself or Molly know, and then we can brainstorm what to do about it. But if you know that something, you took something into prison and it didn't come back out with you, or you accidentally took something out that wasn't supposed to be in there, if you know that that happened, let us know. We'll brainstorm how to solve it. We can work with the prison. If we get a call that says, hey, this and this and this happened, and da, 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 then we have to call you up and be like, hey, what happened? That's a whole different kind of problem. So please let us know if something happens, if this norm gets breached in some way, give us a call, or if any of the other norms get breached. So now that I've stressed you out with all these rules, I'm not a big fan of rules, but I am a big fan of following rules when I'm in prison. It's really important that you follow this idea of dignifying yourself before and after teaching and during teaching as well. So, this is to honor and respect yourself. Prison is a high stress environment. There's a lot of tension, there's a lot of chronic stress. Students who are incarcerated have higher percentages of current and historic trauma than students on campus. And although in our program we haven't had faculty burnout, across the state there have been programs that have experienced faculty burnout. And we know that nationally after the pandemic, that college faculty are experiencing burnout. We don't want that for you. We want to honor and respect you as a human. And so please pay attention and care for yourself holistically, your emotional, physical, relational, spiritual, all kinds of aspects of your health. And take care of yourself, but also connect with other faculty or teaching in prisons. It is this collaborative network that allows us to care for ourselves, to co-learn with students, to dignify, honor ourselves. And really, we are the best we can be for students and with students. So I want to leave you with kind of this takeaway. It is normal to feel overwhelmed when you're acclimating to all of the safety and security measures for going in and out of prison. There's a lot of norms, but once you get used to them, they'll become second nature. So be patient with yourself. Make sure that you also create the norm of taking care of yourself and dignifying yourself. As with the other videos, there are some questions here that we will use in our group discussions with one another.